Hello and welcome to the Business Edge podcast, brought to you in association with Accounts Direct. I'm joined as ever today by Mr. Stephen Englander.
Hello.
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 Today we're going to be discussing something very grown up, aren't we?
We are. I can't believe we're actually discussing
growing
so
your
grown
business via acquisitions and mergers.
Or even mergers and acquisitions.
Yeah, I got it backwards. It's okay.
You did.
I'm alphabetical. I'm very logical.
Okay.
And also the people that you will encounter and deal with
Yes.
during mergers and acquisitions. That is your
My
phone.
phone's ringing.
You forgot to turn it off again, didn't you?
Let me just say I'm not here.
There you go. We're nothing if not slick, prepared, and
Absolutely.
professional.
It's turned off now.
So it's time to grow your business.
Yes.
It's time to grow your business, and one great way of doing that
is by finding other businesses to take them over and become even bigger without doing too much work.
always wonderful.
No, it's a joke, that.
Shh. I was with you right up until
it's
never been my experience.
It's very difficult. There's so much subtleties going on here when you acquire another business, and one of the big problems is finding a business that's compatible with yours. You have a shared culture, for instance.
Yes.
Yeah, that's a really big one. Do you get on with the people that you're going to be taking over? Quite often, it's better just to sack everyone and put your own people in. But I can't say that, can I?
Yes.
I can.
You can say whatever you like.
I was watching an interview once by some very, very wealthy guy, billionaire class, and he had an illustrious career taking over, acquiring businesses all over the world. And when they said, what would be your advice to somebody looking to go on an acquisition campaign? And he says to make your decisions quickly. That when you come in and you look at the management, specifically the management, don't give them second chances. Just say, let's part company sooner rather than later, maybe even on day one.
Yeah.
And that sounds very harsh, and I think there's a lot more of difficulty with mergers and acquisition based on culture. So it'd be great if you could just say, well, I've got 6 fish and chip shops, I've found a 4th, let me take it over, and but it doesn't always work like that.
No, I mean, if we go right back to the start, 'cause we were talking about this earlier as well, when you're looking at businesses to take over, the immediate thing most people look for, is it going concern? Is it doing well? And perhaps that shouldn't be your main concern.
No, so sometimes the value in a business isn't always in the profit and loss account. Don't get me wrong. If a business is losing money or not really making any money, then you don't look at the potential. Everyone says this business has got loads of potential, but loads of potential means spending an awful lot of time, money, effort in bringing out that potential. And then why has it only got potential for sale? I don't like potential.
Why didn't anybody else realise this potential?
I just don't. Sometimes you can see an opportunity. Like we were talking about a client not long ago who was buying a butcher's shop next door to a doctor's surgery that had actually failed miserably, but it's still valuable. Still value because a butcher's shop next door to a doctor's surgery could be converted into a chemist.
Yeah,
it's
straight away.
That type of thing. Yeah, and there's a lot to look at. Finding the value within a business. Sometimes you take on a business and it's got a really low rent. It's tied in, or it's got special licenses that you can use. I know, I'm always on the lookout for accountants or bookkeepers or allied trades that would be interested in selling up their practice. And I'm not really that interested whether it's making a profit or a loss. Nice if they do make a profit. I'm not even that interested where they are, because I would be interested in the client base.
Yes, exactly.
And we absorb them into us. So another firm's expenses won't be necessarily my expenses. And as I've already got them being met, it won't make any difference to me if we took on a big lump of clients by taking over someone's practices. One thing we wouldn't have are their overheads, because we're already paying them. So I wouldn't have to pay software twice. I've already got staff, I've got training methods. So it's not so much the business I want, it's the client base.
Yes.
And maybe any special skills or software they've got.
There can be a lot of value in a business regardless of how it's doing.
But that becomes that changes depending on who's interested in that business or that position or what assets they've got.
Usually this is when it comes to mergers and acquisitions, the assumption is you're already running a business reasonably well, and therefore you're looking to expand.
Well, sometimes if you're looking to start up and you say, well, I'd like a pub. Sometimes people want a pub because, well, any business really, they want because it offers a certain type of lifestyle.
Yes.
You might want to grow grapes in a vineyard in France. It's not so much about making money, it's about the lifestyle that you have. I know plenty of people that run businesses because they love the business.
Yeah.
But certainly when you are starting up and you are going to buy an existing business, you really do have to look at the profits being made, unless you have some other idea of what you want to do. Don't buy potential.
Or be very able to identify why they haven't mined the potential and why you could. But digging that information out.
Yeah, it's normally, I've got this idea and that fits in with it, rather than, what can I do with that?
Yes.
Instead, people often say, how do I value a business? And there's lots of ways of valuing a business. There's lots of, you can tweak them however you want to do it. If you really want the business and it's losing money, you'll find a way that it's profitable if you really, really want it. But on the whole, you've got to look at the net profit of a business and you say, well, how does that compare? So you say, how does that income compare with any other investment I'd make? So let's say that you want to buy a business, you've got £100,000 capital, for example, and you put that money into a bank or a savings account. That's probably quite safe there, but what would you be earning? 1%?
Yeah.
Let's take tax.
If you're lucky, 1%.
Take tax out of it, but
about 1%.
1%. So you've got £1,000 a year. That is from £100,000. Okay, all right. Well, maybe you can invest it into stocks and shares or some sort of savings plan. And what 3
to 4 at best. Yes.
So you've got 3,000, 4,000 a year coming in. What about property? You could rent a house or a shop. Sorry. What do you get from that? It's probably an average of about 8%.
But also your risk and involvement climbs.
Well, with a property, you've got the hassle if people don't pay you the rent, but you can insure against that.
You can, but it's still.
We have to factor
that in.
The higher percentage, the more hassle and risk you're going to take.
Absolutely.
So you've got to look at that. But if you buy a house, you can expect an 8% return, maybe 6 to 8, depending on the property and depending on the whether you're going to employ an agency to look after it. So assuming 8%, let's be good. You've got 8,000 a year coming in from your 100,000 investment. But then you've also got to consider if the property improves in value. So in 10 years' time, traditionally it's doubled?
Well, that's how it's working at the moment, yes.
So taking it over 20 years, you can add that back into your monthly return. But just looking at a basic return, 6 to 8%. So therefore, if you've got £100,000, are you happy with that return? But then you look at a business. So you look at the net profit. If the net profit is 15,000, then all of a sudden you've got a 15% return. It's better than anything else. You've also got to factor in whether you're going to be working in that business. So if you are going to be running it, then it might not be quite as valuable because you've got to look at what you could get if you were going to work for someone else.
Yes.
So the opportunity lost of your wages should be factored in. So if you feel you could get a job for 15,000 a year, that reduces the profits to nil. On the other hand, if it's producing 15,000 a year under management, so you don't actually have to do much, then maybe it's something to consider even better. That's a little tip if you are selling a business as well. It's not always good enough to say, I want £100,000 for it. You've got to make it worth £100,000.
You have to show you're working out.
Show it, show it.
Always show
but that's better for everybody all the way around. There's laws these days about concocting up figures just to sell the business.
Confound those.
I know. No, it's right.
Of course it is, yeah. I mean, our interests all lie in the smaller businesses doing well.
Growing through mergers, because obviously that's the next step, the first merger, the first acquisition. And I'm more of a fan of acquisitions because I find that you have trouble with people when they're still involved with the business. Yeah. Maybe a slow buyout where they're around for 6 months or so to slowly integrate all the new customers.
But at some point, you want them away.
At some point,
you want them away.
You want to go. I mean, sometimes it can work out very, very well, but I personally prefer a fresh start.
Yes.
I'm not opposed to anything really. If anyone out there wants to come and join me and they've got a practice, I'm not opposed to mergers, but acquisitions mean I get to do it my way.
Yes.
You know, like who sang that? Was it Barbra Streisand?
Close. Frank Sinatra.
Frank Sinatra.
Yeah, was it?
Was it? No, it wasn't.
You weren't a million miles away.
But there was a woman that did that. Which was
I don't know. Sid Vicious did it as well.
Did
he? Yeah. He did a cover of that. But no, I get that. And also with mergers, well, we'll come more to that later. What comes with a merger can just be the worst kind of nightmares.
Yeah.
Because it's only when you really get into the ribs of a business that you really find out what's lying there. Yes.
But on the surface of it, a merger, as long as we do the right due diligence, which means we're checking what everybody says is true, and that's not just measured by accounts, that's measured by other things. It's measured by actually looking at customers, actually looking at suppliers, actually looking at agreements. It's just that we are buying what we think we're going to buy. And a merger is a great way of expanding. A merger and acquisition or acquisition. Yeah. So an acquisition, because it's very similar to a merger, even if the heads have gone. But acquiring businesses to grow across the country, across the world, is a marvellous way to grow. It can take you 20 years to build up a customer base, and then you can go and acquire another company of equal size or a bit smaller, a bit bigger.
That's done all the groundwork.
You've just doubled the size of your business overnight. So there's lots of pitfalls, but it's also very good. What I've actually done, and this isn't a plug for it, is we've set up another area specialising in helping clients grow through acquisitions, and that's that we've got a whole finance team in the background ready to help fund it all, subject to the right deal. And we've got people in here that are going to write the business plans and push our way through it, and then find the companies, the type of companies that would be ideally suited for this. So it's quite enjoyable. It's quite interesting, because remember the originally this type of job wasn't done by people selling businesses for you. It was accountants, solicitors, specialists in dotting the I's and crossing the T's to make sure everyone's protected.
On acquisition being a great way of growing your business, one of the companies I've been dealing with recently are in their field one of the largest companies in the UK, and that's exactly how they did it. They just went in, they had significant investment, and they just hoovered everything up, literally one after the other.
They work very well. They don't always work well, but in the main, if you watch what you're doing, you guide it as you're going, you should come out very well out of the other side. And it's not always an immediate surge in new business, but it does give you a much stronger grounding.
Now, of course, we also wanted to talk about some of the folks that you can bump into when you do these things.
Do I have to?
And with a merger, one of them is you're essentially going into business with someone that probably has a very different approach to business than you do.
Well, I think without due diligence, if you take things at face value, I mean, I know clients that have gone down this route, and they thought, there's a good opportunity, but this guy's not running it very well. That's because he's just a salesman. So if I can put him in a position where all he has to do is go out and sell, and I'll do everything else, then we might have, you can join my infrastructure and. But look at that guy we were talking about the other day that went in with that guy, and it was only a very small idea. It was just starting to find its feet, and my client thought it was a really good business. There was no records because it had only just started, but the guy running it was a bit daft.
Yeah.
Shall we say? He just didn't have his eye on the ball. He wasn't interested. So my client said, well, I'll take it over, and I'll just leave them to run it for a bit so I can get some figures so I can see what's going on. And what the guy was doing was charging people VAT when he wasn't registered for VAT, and that caused my client particular trouble when he was eventually investigated.
Yeah.
So, I mean, I remember speaking to my client about it and asking, well, why didn't you check? And he just, well, I didn't think anyone would be doing that. And I thought, I'll just let him get some few months of trading properly, then I'll put...
why would anyone act in such a manner?
But you just don't see it coming, do
No.
you? I mean, I've seen plenty of that going on, and to me, that's why I'm very big on due diligence, because even when you like someone, and in fact, if you don't like someone, you tend to check them out more.
Yes.
So it's only your friends and family that can, what do they say, F you over. The strangers you don't tend to trust as much, so they can't get to you as easily.
Now, the rule of thumb should be that they can only do it once.
Well, yeah, but they find other ways, don't they? Because
They're always looking for other
I didn't
ways.
realise I was doing that. So what was it we say? Well, would it matter if you shot me in the head by accident or on purpose? You still shot me in the head, you know.
Thank you very much
Thank you
for
very
that.
much. And sometimes they don't know what they're doing, but why should their problems be our problems? So due diligence, watch what they're doing, check everything. Don't think that it's too small a business to check. That leave them to run it, they'll be fine, because they're not. They've got even if they're not stupid, they've got different agendas going on, and you've got to watch.
It's usually
that.
the ones that aren't stupid that are the most dangerous, anyway. In my experience,
maybe, but at least sometimes you can see it coming. No, I think the ones that are stupid are the worst. Greedy, stupid, short-sighted, and because you don't spot it coming.
No,
you just have to disbelieve everything they say. And if you're already in that sort of relationship, well, why be in it at all?
Yes.
So I get it. Sometimes you see something, you think, well, I'll get that going, see how it develops. And if he plays like the idiot that he's behaving like, well, I'll put someone else in that role. It never seems to get like that. It
never ends up that way. Yeah. It just dies on its backside.
Yeah. There's an awful lot of that. And, you like to think it's not out of any sort of maliciousness or corruption. It's just because they don't know what they're doing, but you can't take that chance either.
No, and invariably what you'll find, as with that case you spoke about there, is that the person who did what they did remarkably isn't a part of the process going forward. Then in fact they do vanish.
Yeah, but when this shit hits the fan and the authorities are called in, because you've now become the director, you're the one firefighting with something that maybe you should have been a bit more vigilant about, but you never thought about it.
Yeah, because you didn't think anyone would behave in that sort of manner. But these are all things that will crop up time and time again.
Everything needs, when I say a professional behind it, I mean somebody that's familiar with these types of things. So you haven't thought of it, they might.
Yes.
And they might get on your nerves because you might think, well, they're not going to do that. But, they might. So we'll just put a safeguard in so that they don't.
I would suggest that always assume they will.
Well, I can't think of any businessman or woman or anyone, even a dog that's been in business, would not have come up against this type of crap. And as you get older, you become more cynical, you become more aware of things, and you sort of do a bit of due diligence in your head anyway, because you look at someone and think, I'm not dealing with them. I'm not getting to bed with them. Don't we want them to know where I live?
That's how I live my life anyway.
Let me buy a phone just so I can give them the number on that phone.
Yes, and buy a SIM card just for them.
A lot of people a lot of firms that do want to sell out, it's not because the business is a load of rubbish. It's because they've got other things they want to do with their lives, other commitments, other ages, other. I mean, I was different from when I was 35 to when I was 55.
Well, sometimes you just had enough as well.
Sometimes you want to do something different.
Yes.
Yeah.
Retirement. Move into something. Or literally, I can't do this anymore. I'm sick. Let's say newsagents. You see a lot of newsagents.
Yeah.
Traditionally, one that trips a lot of people up as well. But with a lot of these people, it's like, okay, I've done this for 20 years. The money's good, but do you know what? I'm tired of getting up at 4:30.
Yeah.
I want to get up at 9:30.
That's someone younger.
Yes.
That's someone with more enthusiasm. Yeah, absolutely.
And that's very good. But that's, ironically, one of the business I've seen quite a lot of people go into and trip up horribly.
A lot of people don't realise how much work there is in running a business. That's why I'm not really aiming this at people that just want to buy business.
This is people
that on the next
expanding.
Level. Yeah, so they usually have people in the news agents to manage them. So as long as you've got the infrastructure that you can say, I've just bought this news agent in, I don't know, Harper Hay, and I know just the guy who works in one of my other news agents that's now ready to manage a store.
Yes.
And put him in it. And these are great when you do them like that.
You see a lot. I'm trying to think of, like small, medium business I've been part of over the years. And I remember the boom of the video stores. Not the big boom in the 80s. I was still a child, but even up till like sort of mid-90s.
Yeah.
There was still people building reasonably good businesses.
Yeah.
Just opening little stores. But there was one chap I knew who was buying them. Created a group. And, you see that a lot more. But now, I think we've become very startup focused, and we ignore one of the greatest ways of building your business, which is when you've reached a certain point, take another.
Acquire more.
Just take it. And then you've got all the benefits of that, and somebody else has done all the startup for you.
There's also people that think, well, I don't need to pay for someone else's business. I can just find an empty shop and open it up myself.
Yeah.
And I can put it on eBay. But there is mileage in letting someone else's hard work and connections and take that one.
Well, that's what you buy. I think, it's the other thing that's probably obvious to anyone listening to this is you're buying a lot of goodwill with a business as well.
Hopefully.
And that takes a long time to build.
Yeah, hopefully.
Hopefully you will have checked on that. Yeah, you're not buying a shop that everybody hates and is deeply, deeply in debt. But if you've done your due diligence, or at least you know what you're getting into, what you know, what you want out of it.
That's the key issue, isn't it? Don't take anyone's word for it.
Also, what do you want out of it?
Yeah.
That's the most important thing.
Well, it is. It's like I say, you can value a business based on its profit and compare it to the same or similar returns on doing other things entirely different. Or you can look at it as, is this something I can add to my business portfolio or investment portfolio? Or is this something where I can see a value in it over and above what's been offered because it's got a value to me? It might have a particular planning permission or a license.
A property. Even the fixtures and fittings might be something spectacular because they're original. There are many, many things you can look at when you're in that position. Asset stripping, always a nice one. Yeah. I could just buy that business, put everyone out of a job and just tear the back out of it.
Yeah, you could.
That doesn't make you terribly popular.
It doesn't, but it can sometimes make you
very rich.
That's what we're interested in.
Well, look, I mean, the big thing, again, during the 80s when a lot of the money was made in that was taking all the grand houses in, let's say, areas that have now, because of that almost predominantly have degraded terribly, let's say Crumpsall. All grand houses, 3-floor houses, all bought up in the 80s by property developers who turned them into bedsits.
Yeah.
Now the value is so far below what it would have been that it's turned into a feeding frenzy there. And that they literally stripped the back out of that. And of course, the people that got hurt were not them. It was the guys that bought them off them.
Right.
And then suddenly found out
not such a good deal.
It's not worth so much now. Whereas those houses in their original condition would have been worth in excess of 1.5 million.
When you're looking at buying a business, if you look at the value to you, if that coincides with the asking price, then fine. If it doesn't, you can negotiate. But you look at the value to you, and as part of a business development plan, rather than getting you into business, I think we draw up the plans first. We say where we're trying to be, what we're trying to achieve, what areas we're trying to be in, what sort of businesses fit that profile, and then we go looking for them.
I think it's also worth throwing in just quickly before we come to an end here, because we're around that time. We've spoken about if we're looking to take over a business, if we're going to, what should we look for, what should we do? Also, a very quick look is if you're trying to sell either your main business or part of your business. And from what I've been watching, one of the largest problems seems to be overvaluation.
Oh, always.
Based on the fact that you really loved this business, and therefore it should be worth a lot more.
Well, you've spent 30 years in this. You want X out of it, but it's just not what the market bears.
That's why you really, I believe, and again, not a plug, you really need to talk to your accountant or your business development guy.
Well, a lot of business transfer agents and estate agents sell this. The strategy they often have is ask you what price you want and then keep reducing it until it sells, if it ever does sell. And small businesses are not that easy to sell. They usually go to someone that sees the value in it somewhere, or someone that you know.
Yes.
But they do sell, and I think what I've noticed in the past couple of years is that they're selling a lot better than they have been.
Well, you could strengthen your case a lot by not only valuing it realistically, but showing very clearly what the benefit in that business is.
Absolutely. And if you want a certain price for a business, then you've got to say, well, what do I have to do to this business to make it worth that?
Yeah.
No point being silly about it. If a business just isn't worth it, then it's not worth it.
But you see that so much, it's amazing when you look at it. Because I look, when you see in the papers, business for sale, business for sale.
When I worked as a business transfer agency many, many years ago, business transfer agent, not agency, I saw the amount of people that ended up closing down, having the leases taken off them, or just because they approached the time to sell when they were in trouble and didn't ask a realistic price or do anything about things. So it's a long-term problem, this, but a decent business specialist will not just tell you roughly what it's worth, but what you've got to do to it to make it worth.
They'll dig right through the whole deal, and that's the important part. Well, that brings us about to the end of today's podcast.
It's been a very grown-up conversation.
It's been tremendously grown up.
Not be rude about anybody.
We'll fix that next time, I'm sure.
Can we have a list of people and name them on this podcast?
Yeah.
And insult them big time.
If you like.
Okay. Sorry,
don't
Dan,
mind.
you will be on the list.
He's not listening.
No, he's
it's
not.
fine.
I wouldn't dare say it if I thought for 1 second he was.
Thank you very much for listening to the Business Edge podcast. Please check out our Facebook page at facebook.com/Business Edge podcast. And of course, any emails or questions, just head to stephenenglander.co.uk. And there are loads of articles and things up there for you to look at as well. Mm-hmm. Until next time.
One more thing.
One more thing.
Well, if people are still listening by now.
Yes.
If you do have a story of a merger or an acquisition, let me know.
Yeah, definitely get them into us.
It'd be fun. We can put it into the magazine.
Because we know more and more people are listening each week.
Yeah.
But obviously the hardest part is to get people to...
It's doubles now, hasn't it?
It's difficult to get people into a conversation.
Yes.
It's very difficult. Yeah. But definitely get in touch. Any questions,
anything you want to talk
about?
Join us here.
Absolutely. Well, that's the other thing. We are actively talking to people to be guests.
Free tea and coffee, don't we?
I don't.
Oh, I do.
You might. I certainly don't. First time ever I made a client a cup of tea the other day.
That was nice.
And I did tell them, though.
Nice of you.
This will never happen again.
That was very nice of you. Were they grateful for that?
I hope so.
No, that would never happen again.
Very possibly. Very possibly. But yeah, do get in touch. Let us know if there's anything what you'd like to hear discussed, or if you'd like to come in and talk to us about it during one of the podcasts. We're fine with that too. So until next time, thank you very much for listening, and bye-bye.
Bye-bye.